tydzień minął, to taką trochę popytaliśmy, nawet to, bo jakby twoja wersja zgadza z tą wersją, że tak powiem, przez niektórych powtarzając, że nie widzicie tam
Hello, 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 hello. Hello and welcome. This is React Native Community Kraków here at Software Mansion. My name is Kacper, and I'm very happy to be your MC for tonight. We have 4 presentations today. First, my very short intro of what's new and interesting in React Native. That will follow with 3 more presentations. The next one will be about a new text editor we are developing at Software Mansion called React Native Enriched by Igor and Mikołaj. First presentation will be by Tomasz Żelawski, creator of React Native Worklets everywhere. And we'll wrap up with what's new in Expo by Aleksander and Łukasz. I will introduce speakers as we go, so this is just a quick summary. So yeah, without further ado, what's new in React Native? And a lot has been happening in the React Native ecosystem for the past week, because ReactConf has happened in Henderson, Nevada last week. And the second day of the conference was filled with React Native announcements. The first one was there was a release of React Native 82 on stage with many, many new features, including that there is just one architecture. The new architecture is not new anymore, it's just the architecture. The legacy old architecture has been completely not completely removed, but you can't opt out into it anymore. So React Native 82 is the first version coming with only new architecture. If you want to migrate to the new architecture, and you should, because new libraries like React Native Executor and Reanimated 4 is only implemented on the new architecture, you should migrate now. And I have some data from somewhere, I don't know who told me that 75% apps are already using the new architecture. So this is the time. And we have some experience with migrating to the new architecture, software mention. So if you have troubles with migrating, you should definitely contact us. We can help you with that. Next announcement at ReactConf is Hermes V1. Thank you, Kuba, for helping with making that possible. This is not static Hermes. This is something different. The Meta team has been talking a lot for the past years, I believe, a bit about static Hermes, but this is not static Hermes. This is something different. This is a new version of Hermes that's in synthetic benchmarks up to twice as fast than the current Hermes version. But synthetic benchmarks are synthetic benchmarks. This is not real life. In real life, we've conducted benchmarks that run on Expensify app, I believe, and it's a couple of % faster with just a change of a flag. There's like a couple of lines that you have to change to enable the experimental Hermes V1. It's 3% off. Bundle load time, time to interactive, cool. And why is it faster? It's faster because it comes with implemented ES6 classes, const and let syntax, and better async keywords. So we don't need that many polyfills anymore. That's why it's faster, and probably some other stuff as well that I'm not aware of. And next, debug optimized. Thanks, Tomasz, for benchmarks. This is a new Android flag that speeds up the development for many, because it's something very interesting. On the left side, you have a the app running completely in debug mode. But on the right-hand side, you have an app that has libraries, and C++ code specifically, running in release mode. You can still work on your app, but the libraries are run on release. So there's a downside that you can't debug C++ code when it's enabled, but that's not that useful when working with JavaScript code. But I believe it should be enabled by default, but that's not up to me to decide. But yeah, the performance is, as you can see, greater. Next one, React Foundation. We are part of this collective that formalizes React and React Native development for it secures the future of React and React Native. The funding is secured. There is a dedicated engineering team at Meta. It has been for many years, but this is now have been formalized. And not that many things has changing for you guys, but it's interesting for us. Yeah. Glimpse of the future. At ReactConf, there have been new announcement about a React Native version that hasn't been released yet, React Native 83. It's coming in the next probably 3 months or so, till the end of the year. But there will be new features. One of them is virtual view, currently in experimental mode. It's a building block for lists in React Native. So for example, a flash list or legend list could use it to make it simpler for them for development. It has 3 states: visible, pre-render, and hidden. And thanks to the new architecture, it's guaranteed to be rendered when it's visible. So this will mitigate any blank spaces when you scroll. Really cool. I have a note that I wish it's going to be stable soon. Yeah, next one. Performance API plus a new performance panel in React Native DevTools. So in React Native 82, so the current version, current stable version, we have new features to measure performance in JavaScript: performance now, performance mark, performance measure. But the tools to view this performance, I don't know, logs, will be added in 83, so in 3 months. It will come with a flame chart to view this performance logs. And it's the missing part, because on the native side, with Xcode and Android Studio, we had that for forever, but performance on JavaScript, that was missing. This panel was missing. Next one, network panel. We have that in Raiden IDE, but it will come with 83 as well. You can debug fetch, XML, HTTP requests, and also preview images straight in React Native DevTools. Very cool. 3 months to wait more. We've been waiting for quite some time. And last but not least, from React Conf, we have React Native DevTools desktop app. It has no browser requirement because React Native DevTools needs Chrome. This will mitigate that. You will not need Chrome anymore installed on your computer. It has some quality of life improvements like auto-raise and breakpoints, and remembers the arrangement of the windows on your computer for debugging, obviously. Cool. And with Piaskowy, we've sat on Friday and ranked all the announcements in a 1 hour long live stream, so you can get more insights from our comments. It was fun. You should watch it. Next one, React Native Harness from our friends from CallStack. 2 days ago, I believe, they've announced a new library that allows to test native modules with JavaScript. It has a Jest-like syntax, and it's very cool that it executes the code directly on real devices or simulator. It's not running on Node and simulates that. It runs on the real stuff, which is very cool. You can test, for example, MMKV from JavaScript. Cool, useful. And we have a split view in React Native Screens. So in the very near future, React Native Screens will support the 3-column layout that we have on iPads. It's a UI split view controller from iOS that will come to React Native world, which is very cool. And that was enough. That was everything I have for the intro. Next. Oh, no, not yet, because I have one more announcement. Unofficially, we have Blind Bird tickets currently on sale just here, just right now. It's not announced yet publicly. Only here you have a QR code. It's the lowest price possible for the App.js conference you can get. And we have around 30 slots available for the Blind Bird ticket. You can't get it anywhere else, just here. I'll give you a second for the QR code. Good, everyone? Okay, our next speakers. Can I get our next speakers? It will be introducing React Native Enriched, truly native rich text editor by Igor Furgała and Mikołaj Szydłowski. Fun fact about Igor is that for many years he has been supporting a football team that keeps on losing. So I believe he's just very loyal, and he just likes to feel the pain. I've asked him, is it a Polish team? And he said, no, it's not Wisła Kraków. It's something different, but he wouldn't tell me what is it. Mikołaj, fun fact. He's a fan of powerlifting. He loves Monster energy drink. He's a Honda Civic enjoyer, whatever. He's not sure the car will make it through the next technical inspection. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
So please welcome with a round of applause, Mikołaj and Igor.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all here. I am Mikołaj. I'm a software engineer in Software Mention.
Hi, my name is Igor. I'm software engineer at Software Mention too. Today, we would like to introduce you to React Native Enriched, a truly native rich text editor. If you think about any modern, popular messaging app, you will notice that almost all of them support some kind of a rich text styling. You can edit font weight, typeface, or even add custom elements like mentions or code blocks. And no matter if it is Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, mailing app like a Gmail or iCloud Mail, or even X. Yes, that's a premium feature. And goal of React Native Enriched is to provide such capabilities into React Native ecosystem. But you may wonder, why do we need a new solution if this is such a common topic nowadays? Are there any ready-to-use libraries? Yes, they are. Are they good? It depends, but rather not. So let's take a look at examples. WebView. That's probably the most common and popular solution that you can use. Some examples: TentApp editor, React Native Pelrich editor, or custom solutions, so you can take a working web-based rich text editor, wrap it in React Native WebView, and you have something which just works fine in a native environment. But we've noticed that there are two major limitations coming with this approach. And first one is performance. So communication between WebView and your main app JavaScript is asynchronous. You send a message from the JavaScript side, you set up a listener on the JavaScript side which waits for a response coming from WebView, and this can create performance issues on lower-end devices. And the second limitation is everything that comes with layout. So keyboard handling, focusing input, creating pixel-perfect UI, it all becomes much more complicated comparing to native solutions.
Okay, but what else do we have there? Of course, there must be some native solutions. First of all, we have React Native Aztec. It's a pretty nice, complete solution, but unfortunately, it has recently been archived and moved to Gutenberg repository, and there's not much traffic around it. It just feels like it's not being actively maintained anymore. Apart from that, we also have Lexical. It is a solution for rich text editing made by Meta. There's a stable JS package and also a pre-release iOS package, but it's native only, meaning it's only on iOS. There's no like React Native layer there. So what are the problems with it? Firstly, there's no Android version. We have to create it on our own with the same like interfaces and API. And the other problem is we had some attempts at fixing some more glaring bugs and just making some custom stuff using the iOS package. And honestly, the code seems pretty difficult to work with, to say nicely.
Yeah, so as we already discussed possible solutions, let's take a look at our use case. So we are working on a filament which is messaging app for professionals. Before creating React Native Enriched, we were using TentApp editor, which is a WebView-based solution. And we had two major issues. So performance, it was acceptable on iOS, but terrible on Android, and keyboard handling. Creating a UI where your input is at the bottom of the screen and you properly handle appearance and disappearance of a keyboard was complex. We were doing tons of workarounds and none of them work perfectly. So we've decided that we will create a fully native solution which will solve our issues and match our use case. And this is how we created React Native Enriched. So let's see how it works in general. React Native Enriched provides enriched text input, which is a fully native component. It's not a drop-in replacement for text input from React Native, but some of the props should look familiar to you. Styles can be applied by calling ref methods. Output of the library is HTML, so it includes not only text content, but also all of the information about styles, so you can process it or save it later. Toolbar with styles buttons is not part of the library. You have to build it on your own, but it gives you a lot of flexibility because you can create a perfect UI that matches your case. And what's more, most of the styles can be combined, meaning that you can apply many of them at once and they will just look and work fine.
Okay, so moving on to some example usage. Trust me or not, it's almost the shortest code I could think of to just showcase you what we can offer. So, okay, you can, I think, see it pretty much. So we have, of course, enriched text input, so our component. We have some React ref that we connect to it right here, and we'll use it later. And there's a very important event called onChangeState. It's an event for lifestyles detection. So the object that is returned tells us pretty much which styles are currently active in the current selection. So we take that object and, of course, store it in some React state. And then below, there's a simple button. On press, we toggle a ref method that just toggles bold. So basically, you don't have to care about any selection problems or just indexes. You just toggle the bold, and the library does it for you within the current selection. And I've decided that the button will change colors depending whether the bold is currently active or not. So let's see it in action. So what? You can type some words. If we toggle the bold, of course, the word will be bold. You can also toggle it on just whole text selection, just like that. And notice that when we drag the selection now, we get a really nice feedback regarding the bold detection, and it brings you a truly native experience, we believe. So now let's see how it's built. First of all, our component is uncontrolled. What does it mean? Let's first start with controlled component. For example, if you look at React Native's text input, it is a controlled component. You can pass a value prop to it, which allows you to change the component's content externally, but it comes with a risk, because native and JS state may be out of sync. That results sometimes in lost text updates when typing quickly in the component. Our component, on the other hand, is uncontrolled, meaning that we can avoid this issue. Its state is managed only on the native side, and it changes in reaction to API usage and users' input. It's worth noting that we still support a default value prop. Okay, and the tech stack. We are using native components wrapped in React Native Fabric component. The Android side is written in Kotlin, just because it's easier to use it than Java. And the native component underneath is edit text. On the iOS, however, we are kind of forced to use Objective-C++ because currently React Native Fabric components interfaces are only made in Objective-C++. In the beginning, we were thinking of just using only the essential Objective-C++ code for communicating with React Native, and the rest we were thinking of bridging to Swift, but honestly, Objective-C++ grew on us, so you should give it a try. And the component underneath in Objective-C++ is UI text view, of course.
Yeah, so one of the cool features that we implemented is auto-growing mechanism. So it's pretty common case when you don't want to give your component fixed height. Instead, you would like to specify minimum height, maximum height, and allow your component to grow as user types. Creating such behavior with web view-based solution is pretty difficult, if even possible, but in React Native Enriched is supported out of the box. We've managed to implement that by measuring component size on the native side, passing this value to custom shadow node, and this is how Yoga knows what's the desired component height. You may also wonder if we decided to use Nitro or Expo modules. So short answer, no. We have to use custom shadow nodes. Also, we wanted to avoid any additional abstraction layer. Yeah, here you can see a list of base props that we support, and those props should be already familiar from component from React Native. We have autofocus, auto-capitalize, placeholder, selection color, editable, style, and a couple more. Yeah, and that's probably the most exciting part of the presentation, so supported styles. Styles in React Native Enriched can be split into 3 groups. First group, inline styles, because you can apply them to any part of the text that you want based on user selection. And we have bold, italics, underline, strike through, and inline code there. And in order to apply them, you call toggle bold or toggle italics, etc. method. Next group, paragraph styles. So we support 3 types of headings, block quote, code block, and both ordered and unordered lists. If it comes to lists, it's worth mentioning that we support 2 ways of applying those styles. So you can either apply them manually by calling a ref method, but they are also automatically created when we match a proper typing. So when user enters 1 dot space at the beginning of the line, we will automatically create ordered list item, and if user enters dash space at the beginning of the line, we will automatically create an ordered list item. And the last group of supported styles are styles which require some parameters in order to work properly. So here we have links. They can be both applied manually or they can be applied automatically when we detect a valid URL. We have mentions. And if you think about Slack, for example, they support both mentioning user and the channel. And in React Native Enriched, you can specify as many types of mentions you want. It's enough to pass a mention indicator, which is basically a first character of that mention. Also, we support applying custom attributes, meaning that when you set up a mention, you can pass an object with as many attributes as you want. And later, those attributes will be accessible in the HTML, so you can easily assign, for example, channel ID. And inline images, so you can insert any image you want just inside the text, and you don't have to use any additional component composition.
Okay, next up, React Native Enriched allows you to customize the mention styles to some degree using a pretty simple config. And there are some cool things like ordered and unordered lists have markers, so there's like 1, 2 numbers and the dots. They can be changed with font weight, they can have different colors, sizes. We can have customized block quotes, so that rectangle you see in there can have different actually dimensions, colors, also font color can be different. We have headings with custom sizes, and they can be bolded by default or not. And the most cool one, dimensions that Igor just mentioned. Each different type of mention, so for example, a user mention or channel mention, they can have like completely different styling config. So we can change the background, foreground color, and underline properties as well. And there's more, of course. Next, we have events. And we have actually a lot of events that let you really customize the behavior with the enriched text input to, let's say, hit your goal. So, first of all, there are text, HTML, and selection change events. These are dispatched every time text changes in the input, HTML changes in a way, because you can also just toggle the style without changing the text. And of course, selection changes if you need it. There is live styles detection, so just as we've seen on the example usage. There are some events regarding the inputs, focus and blur. And now, first, we have link-related events, and they let you create some really nice and custom link editors. And I'm just going to show you the one we have in our example app. So yeah, you can, using these events, I just create a link, set it at some place, and now I can just press it again and, for example, edit only the text of the link and keeping the URL as it was. And lastly, we have quite a few mention-related events that let you really control each stage of mention addition. We have firstly an event that gets emitted when user types some mention indicator, stating that you should probably maybe open some UI to start editing the mention. You get an event during the addition that the user, for example, deleted or added some new characters to the mention, so we can, I don't know, maybe change some queries in your UI. And you even get an event when user decides to stop editing a mention without finishing it. So we also have some mention editor in our example app. And let's see how it works. So yeah, we're typing some more characters, and our search query is then just narrowed down. And after selecting, there's also a method to just set a mention as it is. OK. But as it is with all freshly created libraries, there are some limitations to it. Firstly, HTML is our format of choice, meaning there's no out-of-the-box Markdown support, because a lot of people already asked for it, both on X and on GitHub. However, the formats can be converted. You just have to do it on your own. We do not support nested lists yet. OK, the library is generally rather oriented around short text than some documents. We just haven't really tested performance on the longer documents as of now. And there is still no component for displaying the rich text with our format and configs. But Igor is going to talk a bit about it soon. And believe us, it's high on our priority list.
Yeah, so let's see how future of React Native Enriched looks. Our main goal is to be up to date with most recent React Native versions. Last week we've added support for React Native 82, meaning that right now we support latest 4 versions. Code blocks and inline images. As for now, they are implemented only on Android, so we plan to implement it on iOS too. Enriched text, which will be a fully native component used just for displaying output of the enriched text input. Right now, if you want to use this output, you have to use some third-party library like React Native Render HTML, but we believe that with built-in component, the development will be much easier. And web support to satisfy universal apps, which are more and more popular. Yeah, so to sum up, React Native Enriched has been released a couple of weeks ago. Our client, Filament, who sponsored this project, is already using it in production. But we understand that rich text editing is a complex topic. There are so many different apps and so many different ways of handling styles, so it may not fit perfectly for every use case. But feel free to check it out, let us know how it works, and if you need help with building your perfect rich text editor, we at Software Mention are always happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, by the amount of text on the slides, you can probably tell they like to text edit. I believe we have some time for a QA session. Are you open to QA session? Or?
Yes.
Why not? OK. Are there any questions maybe to those guys? At the end, last row, text editor boys.
Hello, great presentation. I just have a question, because you mentioned that this component is uncontrolled. I also not seen any value or default value on a props. So is there a way to set some default value in this component? Like say I start something on my API and now I want to display it in that component. Is that possible? If not, are there any plans to support it?
Yes, so we provide default value prop that you can use. Also, you can set a value imperatively by calling a set value method on a ref. But we do not support a standard value prop like you know from the React Native text input, because we wanted to avoid this misconfiguration between native and JavaScript state, especially that we have to process the text to HTML. So yeah, we wanted to avoid this case.
Okay, thanks.
We can afford maybe one more question. Nothing? 3, 2, 1. OK. Please. Our next speaker, he's the creator of React Native Worklets. Fun fact about Tomek, or as we call him, TJ, is that he likes bees. He likes bees. And I was told that his second name is Honey. That's not true. His second name is actually January, which is really, really cool. Yeah, please welcome Tomek, Worklets everywhere.
Hi, thank you for the great introduction. So I'm Tomasz Żelawski. I'm a software engineer at Software Mention, and I work in the React Native open source team. And today I want to talk to you about React Native Worklets, which I maintain and allegedly created. But before we go into it, we need a little reminder of what exactly a React Native app is. So, in simple words, a React Native app is just a standard native app, which means that it has a main thread, also called the UI thread. But what makes the React Native app unique is that it runs some JavaScript code on another thread called the JS thread. And the JS thread handles the React tree, which is then translated to native character views and rendered on the screen from the UI thread. And, you know, my phone has 6 CPU cores, and this only takes 2. So, how do we use the remaining 4 cores? Well, the fact is that some JavaScript code is actually a lot of JavaScript code. It's literally the whole of our app, consisting of many unique parts. So let's single out some of those parts. What do we have there? First and foremost, we have the management of the React tree, so rendering your views, your hooks, and translating some of the JavaScript into the native components. Then you have animations, so using libraries like React Native Reanimated. You also have gestures, so probably React Native Gesture Handler. You definitely do data fetching and processing, general API calls, REST APIs, and so on. You might also do some heavy calculations, cryptography, encryption, if you're doing like a chat app that has end-to-end security until it's banned everywhere. You might also do camera frame processing with React Native Video Camera Library and directly access the GPU with React Native Web GPU. And the problem is that all of those tasks sit on this single core on the JS thread. And we still have all of those to use. So it's time to wake them up. But how? The execution pipeline in React Native is quite simple too. So we have that JS thread, which has all of these tasks in the JavaScript code, but it cannot execute these tasks on its own. It needs a tool that can understand the JavaScript code. So this tool is an instance of the JavaScript virtual machine, the block of memory that understands JavaScript and can do some stuff with it. And in the case of React Native, we call this virtual machine is the Hermes virtual machine, which in short we call just the Hermes runtime. And I personally like to call it the React Native runtime, because this is the React Native, the runtime created by React Native, and this is where React lives. So, going back to our course, we would ideally take all those tasks from the JS thread and split them among our cores. And then execute all of those on the same React Native runtime. But this is obviously not possible because JavaScript is single-threaded. It cannot be accessed from multiple threads at once. I like to, what do we do with it? Well, it's time to get creative. And in our creativity, let's start small. Let's start with priority tasks. And the priority tasks of your app are animations and gestures, because this is the direct interaction with the user, which has to be fast and responsive. So we have, for the moment, the handling of the React tree, our animations, and our gestures our single core and our single runtime. And to offload those, we must offload those to the UA thread, because this is the thread that has the asynchronous access to the rendering layer and which gets the touch events first. But we still have the same problem. We have only one runtime. So let's just create another one and call it the UA runtime. And then we can execute the React tree on the React Native runtime and then execute the animations on the UA runtime. Sounds great in theory, but there's a problem. And this problem is the JavaScript bundle. Because when React Native loads, it loads all of your JavaScript code into the JavaScript bundle and puts this bundle onto the React Native runtime. And unfortunately, this bundle cannot be moved in any way to the second runtime. Even a single function from this bundle cannot be taken to the UA runtime. And I think there's a great analogy to trying to move this bundle from one runtime to another. It's like moving a file between two computers like this, which I really think was possible, but, well, I mean, your, I don't know, aunt or maybe mom tried it one day, and it didn't work, and you had to explain why is this not possible. But it would be great if it worked. And this problem is why worklets were invented as a concept in 2020. But what is a worklet? And what is the ever enigmatic worklet directive in a function? So if we go to the docs, we can find the following definition. A worklet is a short-running JavaScript function that can be moved and executed across different runtimes. But how is that possible? We just said a second before that we cannot move a single function from one runtime to another. Well, it started with a simple Bubble plugin. Bubble is a tool that does some transformations of your code before it's loaded into the bundle. And this plugin was recently renamed with the release of the React Native Worklets library to Worklets Bubble plugin. And you are pretty much familiar with it because one thing reanimated in Worklets 2 are famous is due to its errors, and this error is pretty famous, failed to create a worklet. But what does the plugin actually do? We have a simple code that uses React Native Reanimated, and we have useAnimated style with a worklet inside. And the transformation that the plugin does is the following transformation. So the function from the useAnimated style is extracted out, and a code property is appended to it with the whole code of the function itself. And then this function is passed to useAnimated style as a parameter. And the actual transformation is actually a bit more complicated, but the key component is still that code there, the whole code of the function. Because we cannot move a function between runtimes, but we can move a string. And if we can move a string to another runtime, we can then evaluate it there and run it. And this is how we can do anything on the UA runtime from the React Native runtime with worklets. And this is how reanimated and gesture handlers have been doing this for years, and this is why they are so popular and effective. Okay, but these were only the priority tasks, the gestures and the animations. What about the other tasks? Well, this is a bit more complicated because in general we are now talking about using libraries in worklets. And passing strings of functions just won't do it here. This is because in case of, for example, reanimated, it has its functions marked with the worklet directive. So we have access to the code of that function. But if we look at more general, libraries, like Lodash or Axios, we can see that there is no mention of worklet in the code, meaning that we have no strings to move, no code to execute on the UI runtime. And to solve this problem, we actually have to take a step back, because we said that we can't move the bundle between the runtimes. Well, what if we could meet the bundle mode? The bundle mode is an experimental feature in React Native Worklets. It's experimental because its setup is pretty complicated, but it's actually stable in production, and you can try it in your own app. And what it does, it integrates deeply with the code and tools available in React Native to access the JavaScript bundle before it's loaded to the React Native runtime, and to share it across as many runtimes as we need. So now we can have a background thread with its own runtime, a separate runtime called a worker runtime, and pass the bundle there. And so how does it work if it doesn't use strings? Well, let's say we have the following example. We have a simple universe.ts file that has some function called loadUniverse that uses Axios to do an HTTP request. And then we have our component apptsx, which has a export default function app which uses loadUniverse. And what we want to do, we want to offload this request of loadUniverse to another runtime. So we add a worklet directive and add an import of create worklet runtime and run on runtime from React Native Worklets, create that runtime, and finally run loadUniverse on that runtime. But well, here's another problem. How do we link the functions? Because we have two runtimes. Each of them has the loadUniverse function, but how do we tell that if I want to invoke loadUniverse from one runtime, it executes exactly the same loadUniverse on another runtime? How are we linking the bundles? And to figure out how to link them, we must understand the structure of the JavaScript bundle in React Native. So going back to our example file, and this is how our code looked initially. And if we look into the bundle it produced, it's pretty complicated. It's actually a simplified version of the bundle. The real bundle is usually 100,000 of lines long, weighing around up to, I don't know, like 50 megabytes. So this is only 1,300 lines. And the key elements that we have here is that in the beginning, we have some initialization, which is not important to us. But in the latter part, we have the __d, and in the last line, __r invocations. And what are those? Well, they are actually define and require. Define defines a module in a lazy fashion, and a module in the bundle terms is just a single file. As we can see, there's the define of apptsx, define of universe.ts, and the require is require call just like in Node API, which takes a module and invokes its code. And these are global functions, meaning that we can use them from any place in the code. And you might already know where we are going from here. So, yeah, the universe, and this is also the module for the Axios index file. So, if we look into the define, we can see that it actually has our code, our call of loadUniverse inside function app. It's transformed to a format that's acceptable by React Native, but this is basically the same thing. And if we look at this little number in the define, this one, this is the module ID of our universe.ts module. And this is great because this module number is going to be the same on all of the runtimes in all the bundles, meaning that module 1 in the React Native runtime is the same as module 1 on the UA runtime and same as module 1 on the worker runtime. So that way, we can call the module 1 on one runtime or another, and it's going to be the same code. But how do we obtain this number? Because this is in the bundle. We don't have it while we are writing the code. Well, turns out that actually there is a possibility to do that. So if we only could do the following transformation to add a module ID property to our load universe, we can call require.resolve_weak and then pass the name of the module. It looks a bit silly because this is the university as file, but this is how you have to do it. And require resolve weak is a function exposed by Metro, which lets you get the module ID. So with all of this, we get the effectively just load universe module ID equals 1. And the 1 is a number which can be passed to C++. So now React Native Worklets can just write a method in C++ called getModuleID, which gets a worklet and gets property module ID from it and returns that ID. And then we can implement a C++ method in Worklets, run on runtime, which takes a target runtime and the module ID, obtains require from the global object via the __r, as we saw in the bundle, and call that require function with the module ID. And this is how we invoke load universe on another runtime. And we went from this to this, and with the bundle mode to this, using all the cores on the physical device instead of just one, with our tasks evenly distributed, and this is thanks to worklets everywhere. And I really think this is the future of React Native, because with React Native worklets and the bundle mode, we can get the missing piece in React Native, the one that has been missing for years, which is web workers. And this is all from me. Thank you.
Tomek once said that worklet is a high-level spell. Not everyone has to know it. But at least there's a tutorial now, so that's cool. Do we have questions, maybe? We have some time for questions. I believe there are many questions, but we're open? No? There is one. There is one. The gentleman in the back.
I recognize his face.
You do?
Hey there, awesome presentation, thank you very much. I wonder about the memory footprint of the JavaScript bundle, and that from the second runtime, you are accessing the same bundles, the same module ID. But is the bundle like copied to the second runtime, or is it referenced? So that when you have, essentially what I'm asking, when you have 6 cores, will you have the same bundle loaded 6 times in the memory, or it's going to be one bundle?
So we do it the way that we do not copy the bundle, but some internal implementation is still down to Hermes. So for example, the bundle as a code is shared just once, so there are no copies. But in terms of executable code, at the moment, if you don't use static Hermes, it's going to be duplicated, but this is not that much of a memory footprint from my measurements. But if you do use static Hermes, then the bundle is just a single instance shared across all runtimes, which is our goal, to have no code duplication, no memory duplication.
All right, thank you.
Hi, first, really amazing stuff. is like Einstein. So I have a question, maybe a little more basic ones, but do you have any practical mindset advice in terms of when should I think to actually start implementing worklets? Because obviously, if everything works nice without worklets, we're not doing it. But what are the signs that I should try to actually implement it and it can be beneficial?
Well, I think it's really use case dependent, because worklets are supposed to be like a building blocks for more, let's say, fine detailed usage. But for example, I was playing with React Native Web GPU, and in situations when you have like some, I don't know, rotating cube or rotating element that is rarely changed, or changes to it are irrelevant to the user input, then you can offload it totally to the other thread and free up the JS thread. So you might get rid of some performance issues. It really comes to how your app works. Because if your app is performant enough, then there's no reason to offload anything. But if you are struggling and you are already trying to optimize something, so I know your list works badly, so you are going to legend list to get that few FPS back, maybe you need to offload some web fetches or general API calls or whatever. What do you do? What makes your list slow? So I think it's hard to give a general guideline. You just need to experience, not experience, experiment.
Okay, thank you.
Last one?
We have one more.
Yeah. In the middle.
Hi, awesome presentation, really appreciate it. Wanted to ask which types of values can you actually send different values between worklets, and which value types are not supported or transferable?
Yes, so a JavaScript virtual machine is a block of memory that's very coupled together, so you can't just take one element and pass it to other runtime. You're going to have an exception. But there are methods to serialize some data. So for example, like numbers, strings can be moved without any problems. Objects can be serialized and deserialized. If you have more complicated use cases, like a self-referencing object, like with recursion inside, this can be done, but it needs some implementation. Functions can be moved in any way. But if you think of like all of like standard objects that it use, some maps, sets, arrays, and so on, they can be moved without any problems. If you have a custom class, so you have a class on one runtime and you want to move an instance of it to another runtime, you would need to tell how to serialize it. So turn your class into just an object, and then turn that object back into a class instance on another runtime.
Okay. What about array buffers? Like
yes,
images?
they work right off the bat.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great questions. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tomek.
Thank you.
Please. Our last presentation today will be concluded by our senior employees. Alek. First one is Alek. First one actually is Łukasz. That's okay. According to his Strava profile, he has done over 2,000 miles on his bike. Well, not today, but like in general, I guess. And Alek owns a pasta machine. He makes pasta about once a month, something like that, yeah? That explains the whole spaghetti code in Expo SDK. Also, he has gnocchi board, whatever this is, but he has never used it.
It was a gift, but we'll decide.
Please welcome these guys with a round of applause.
All All right, so hi everyone, I'm Alek, this is Łukasz.
Hi.
We're both software mention engineers working on the Expo SDK platform. And today we're excited to share just a few of our recent releases, some of new features, experiments, and a few future plans for the framework itself. The first thing we wanted to talk about, kicking off Expo file system. I'm glad to announce that it's finally stable. We're dropping the next suffix. And actually, in Expo SDK 54, we promoted the new file system to be the default Expo file system export. The old legacy, now the legacy API is still supported, available if needed under the legacy entry point. The new API is built from the ground up to be as easy to use as possible, heavily inspired by WinterCG and Bun. Shared objects, which is an Expo module's core feature, make it object-oriented, which in turn makes it significantly easier to identify which functions and properties are applicable for files and directories, making the entire API easier to use. The new module supports both synchronous and asynchronous methods for file access, plus a host of secondary properties and methods to streamline common use cases across common, popular React Native applications. These include readable, writable streams, and we also surface native file handle APIs for file seeking and parsing straight on the JavaScript layer. We've also shipped integrations with Expo Fetch, and the file class is implementing the blob interface directly. This all enables cross-compatibility with several other Expo SDK libraries, community packages, and more. We've also built in storage access framework support on Android, which required a significant overhaul of the way we approached handling files in the old module. But I'm happy to announce that most of file system methods work straight under the regular namespace. There's no longer a separate namespace for handling storage access framework. We also enable working with native assets, and we've also shipped iOS file and directory pickers, as well as Android storage access framework pickers for files and directories, straight in Expo file system itself.
We know that the file system is a very important module. And we have a lot of idea how we can improve it even further. But before we get to any of that, there is one missing piece. We are lacking a way to share binary large object between packages. And that's why we created Expo Blob. You can say we already have support for Blob in React Native. And yes, that's true, but our implementation closely follows the official standard. And we are very confident in that, because we borrow some tests from web standard to ensure everything is working correctly. You can check out the documentation and explore how Expo Blob is working. The package was released as a part of SDK 54. It is a building block, so we can expect in the future some integration with file system, Expo Fetch, and probably many other libraries.
Next, let's talk about Expo UI. Expo UI ships a set of native platform components written with customizability and composability in mind. Now, it's not a true cross-platform module, with different APIs on iOS and Android by design. We want to enable React Native devs to ship true platform feel for even the most complex and modern of components with actually no analogs on the second platform. We already shipped a rich set of components and modifiers to unlock a number of features that just weren't possible without using native modules previously. In SDK 54, we promoted Expo UI on iOS to beta. We've also implemented a host of improvements to Expo UI on Android, including shape components, custom button shapes and clip masks, modifiers, including modifier scopes, and a wide range of components, including a few community contributions. We hope to promote Expo UI on Android to beta, starting SDK 55. We're also proud of improvements shipped by Expo and Software Mention engineers to better support developers building on MetaQuest. In SDK 54, we shipped Expo Go to the MetaQuest store, enabling developers to build rich native experiences for Meta's latest VR devices using familiar React Native tools and APIs. Software Mention is also working on bringing support That's actually.
It's
Software Mention is also working on bringing support for improved continuous native generation and enabling the use of all Expo modules on MetaQuest. And we'll have more details to share on that soon.
Let's talk a little bit what is coming next. In this cycle, we are planning to improve several of our packages, starting with Expo Media Library next. Our goal is to release it as a part of SDK 55. You might be wondering what is wrong with the current implementation. That's a fair question. And to be honest, there is nothing fundamentally broken with the current implementation. It has been working for a long time across multiple SDKs. It survived a lot of changes on iOS and Android related to permissions. So at that point, the code on the native side is a little bit messy. We are planning to spend some time to clean that up, and we are also want to provide you a better API, one that is more object-oriented instead of C-style API used by the current version. You can expect the same set of functionality that are in Media Library today, but with refreshed and cleaner API. On the slide, you can see how you can create asset from a local file. You can obviously display it using React Native image or Expo image. Also, you can create an album with local assets. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And that is my favorite addition. So we are introducing a new query method to get assets from the camera roll. You will have access to the query object, query builder, and you can, for instance, limit the number of results, specify the album in which you want to search for the assets, do some filtering. For instance, I just want to return only images. You can sort the results on the native side, and at the end, you can execute the query and get your assets. I said that package will come out as a part of SDK 55, but actually that's not true. Right now, we can go to our documentation and check out the new API. And I believe we even released it as a canary last week. So yes, technically you can try it out today. However, the official release will come as a part of next SDK. I encourage you to check the documentation, check the API, and if you have any suggestion or feedback, let us know. We know that some libraries in Expo deserve more love. And that's why during that cycle, we are focusing on revamping some of them. Currently, we are working on 2 packages, on Expo Calendar and Expo Contacts. I don't have much to show you today about those packages, since those projects are still in early stage. But I do have some sneak peeks. So on the slide, you can see a type declaration of Expo Calendar module. And on the next slide, you can see how updating contacts will look like.
We have a project in the works that I'm pretty excited about, and I'm very happy to share a quick sneak peek here. We're thinking of a new way to include native code in Expo projects. We call it, after a collective brainstorm on naming, inline modules. This experiment enables you to drop native Swift and Kotlin files using the familiar Expo modules DSL straight into your Expo router or plain React Native file structure. These files are then typed for imports and resolved by Metro. We have future plans to bring on additional enhancements like full static type generation for props and methods to improve this experience further. These files are also easily editable using Xcode and Android Studio, so no more searching through development pods. We want to make it really easy to drop down to platform code with full comfort of the native development experience.
Expo Modules API is great, and I know I can be a little bit biased on that, but you can actually achieve a lot of nice things using it. But there is one case when the API doesn't work. When used with Worklets. Right now, you cannot call function from Expo modules inside of Worklet body. If you need that kind of interaction, you will have to go with Turbo modules or other module system. I'm happy to say that we are working on this problem. In that cycle, we are planning to add some support for Worklets. But it's still very, very early and very experimental, so it may not even land. So I cannot promise you anything. But I just want to say that it is something that we are exploring. And yeah, but you may ask me why it is important. So let me explain. Let's say that you want to pause a video player when user press the button. On the slide, you can see how that interaction may look like when implemented with gesture handler. So we have the user interaction on the main thread. Then we can trigger the gesture handler callback on the same thread because it is powered by Worklets. And then we have to do a weird thing because we cannot execute a pause method from video player because that object lives inside of the main thread. Not main thread, sorry. Inside of your main runtime, JS thread, a lot of threads, too many threads, to be honest. So you have to jump to JS thread. Then the only thing that is happening on the JS thread, the video player is scheduling a new method on the main thread because pausing a movie is a UI operation. It has to be done on the UI. So we have to come back to the main thread. That jumping between threads, introducing a delay that may be noticed by your users. That could be simplified when we have the integration with Worklets. Everything could be executed on the main thread directly. It won't be slower because the video player needs to be executed on the main thread. So actually, it will be faster. We are not going to jump the main thread, even if it can look like it. So that's only one use case for that. We have some other use cases in mind. For instance, it will be nice to play with haptics on the main thread directly. Also, it can be useful for background processing. Let's assume you want to process a lot of files. And yeah, so you create a custom worklet runtime to offload it. It would be nice to have file system there. It will be much easier. You don't have to create like weird hacks or weird communication pipelines to get content from the file. So that's something we are working on, but how I said, I cannot promise you anything. And that's all that we want to share with you today. And I think we have some time for questions.
A lot of time for questions, actually.
I know, we did a speed run, but it's OK.
Questions? Holy moly, we do have React Conf at home. So good. Maybe some questions, QA session for guys? Nothing, really nothing.
Cool.
OK, that's all, guys.
Thank you.
OK, so that wraps up the official part of the React Native Community Kraków meetup. But the meetup is not done yet. We have pizza currently coming for you guys. We have some time for networking, enjoying the beer, and the back-end side of the office. There are more drinks, I believe, back right there. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks everyone for watching us live right now on YouTube and X. And yeah, bye.